Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at Fear Street Part 1, 1994. As its title implies, this is the first part of the Fear Street film series, based on the Fear Street book series written by R.L. Stine. Fear Street began in 1989 with The New Girl, and eventually spawned over 50 novels and various spin-off series. Most people know Mr. Stine for Goosebumps, but I understand the Fear Street books were a bit more graphic, with teenage protagonists instead of Goosebumps preteens. Personally, I've never read a Fear Street, so I won't be able to comment on how the movies compare. I do know the movies don't follow any specific Fear Street book plots. Instead, the movies take the settings and some characters and tell their own stories, crafted by director and co-writer Lee Janiak, who had previously made the film Honeymoon and directed episodes of the Scream TV series. All three Fear Streets were filmed back-to-back, Lord of the Rings style, from March to September in Georgia in 2019. They were originally going to be released in theaters within a single year by Fox, but that plan fell apart after Fox was purchased by Disney. Eventually, Netflix acquired distribution rights and released them week after week in July of 2021. As is often the case with Netflix horror, I was inundated with requests to cover these bad boys. And I'll admit, I was skeptical at first. Netflix's other huge horror hits never did too much for me. I found Bird Box painfully mediocre, and I notoriously hate both babysitter films. While watching the first Fear Street, I initially felt the same trepidation. For the most part, 1994 didn't impress me, and I wondered why everyone was making such a big fuss over it. But then I realized I couldn't wait to watch Part 2, and when I finished that one, I was downright pumped for Part 3. The Fear Street films really grew on me, and the more time I spend with them, the more I appreciate them. Even if they're not doing anything revolutionary, they're a remarkably fun and easy watch. The trilogy follows high school students in Shadyside, a small Ohio town that seems to be cursed with bad luck, and I mean more than just being in Ohio. Haha, go blue! Shadyside's troubles are egregious and murdery, setting it in stark contrast to its neighboring town, the wealthy Sunnyvale. Part 1 takes place in 1994 and is very much in the style of Scream, which came out in 96 and defined the horror genre for the late 90s. Parts 2 and 3 travel back in time to look at historical Shadyside tragedies, imitating other horror films in the process, but somehow always keeping things tied together to the central story. Though each film works as a successful standalone, with proper beginnings, middles, and ends, they're also a brilliantly executed cohesive trilogy with a surprisingly satisfying conclusion. I mean, this thing really sticks the landing. I even teared up during Part 3. Part 1 is my least favorite film of the trilogy, and the one that seems most derivative. Though it takes place over 25 years ago, it still feels like something made in 2021, no matter how many 90s songs they stick on the soundtrack. And trust me, there are a lot. The needle drops are non-stop, and while I'm a huge fan of Nine Inch Nails and Pixies and garbage, it's a bit distracting when the first act has a different song starting every few minutes. I have plenty of other complaints that I'll mention during the kill count, but it's worth noting that a lot of people love all three of these movies, and that I'm probably not the target demographic here. I'm in my 30s and tend to like things that are less mainstream. Fear Street has an undeniably pop sensibility targeted towards teens. I think it's great though that this kind of thing exists. It's a good bridge into more graphic horror, from things like Goosebumps and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Fear Street may feel like those other films at first, but these movies don't pull any punches. There's a whole lot of gore, a fair amount of sex, and you know what? They even kill some kids. Gotta respect a YA movie that doesn't baby things up too much. Since those gnarly kills are part of the reason so many of you wanted this episode, let's get to them. The movie begins with Maya Hawke. We love Maya Hawke. She's so damn charming in Stranger Things 3. Hawke plays Heather Watkins, who works at a bookstore in the Shadyside Mall. It sells a lot of Fear Street-looking books written by fictional author Robert Lawrence, which is what the RL stands for in R.L. Stine. Heather's closing tonight, making her a closer, homonym to Closer, the Nine Inch Nails song playing on the soundtrack right now. It's the Fuck You Like an Animal song, but not the Bloodhound Gang one, that was 99. The only other people here are the janitor and the sex doll. Oh, and Ryan Torres, Heather's friend played by David Thompson. He was in the Kick-Ass Green Room and in Gotham as Scarecrow. Besides them though, nobody else is here this late.
What?
The
except maybe a disembodied voice or two. This opening segment is one big love letter to Scream. Heather gets a creepy phone call, just like Drew Barrymore's Casey Becker. The hooded skeletal killer who shows up is pretty reminiscent of Ghostface, and the similar sounding score comes courtesy of Scream's composer Marco Beltrami, who wrote all of Fear Street's music alongside a different co-composer for each film. Skullmask chases Heather into a Hot Topic-esque store where he slashes her stomach beneath the black lights. She runs back out and passes the bodies of 3 random mall employees seen dead, though 2 of them are blink and you miss it in the background. The movie puts its Scream influence on its cloak sleeve as Skullmask catches up to Heather in a shot directly referencing when Ghostface got Casey. I actually love that, especially because Maya Hawke is similar to Drew Barrymore, a young actor we know and love who comes from a famous acting family. It makes her a surprising first victim, just like Casey was. And just like Casey pulled off Ghostface's mask before she died, Heather does the same to Skullmask, revealing her friend Ryan Torres. They go on the kill count together as Ryan is shot in the head by a sheriff, who arrives too late to save Heather from bleeding out to death on the floor. The opening credits show us the intramural conflict between Shadyside and Sunnyvale. Shadyside suffers from so many murders it's called Killer Capital USA, while the successful Sunnyvale citizens haven't seen a single crime in decades. Lots of cool images in these credits hint towards things that'll play out in the next 2 films, and perhaps in future Fear Streets as well. The idea to shoot 3 films at once and release them close together came from producer Peter Chernin of Chernin Entertainment. Director Lee Janiak took the idea and ran with it, deciding the movies should all be connected and take place in different eras. Janiak, who's married to Ross Duffer of Stranger Things, poured her heart and soul into making these movies, directing all 3 over the course of 108 days. I like that she didn't just lean on nostalgia when it came to each era. She actively differentiated them with specific looks and tones. For 1994, she and cinematographer Caleb Heyman used dolly tracks and tripods to emulate a traditional studio style, common to slashers of the late 90s. With the cold open over, it's time for a title card and a whole bunch of 90s songs on the soundtrack. Pissed off grunster Dina, played by Kiana Madera, drafts a note to her ex Sam as Garbage's Only Happy When It Rains plays anachronistically. Iron Maiden's Fear of the Dark takes over as Dina's brother Josh chats on AOL. 90s! The 2 of them head to school as Machine Head blares, giving us 3 songs in 3 minutes. And then, hold up, Sophie B. Hawkins comes in as Josh admires his sister's friend Kate?
Watch it, nerd.
Wait, what the fuck? Now Portishead? Come on, movie! We're only 13 minutes in and you've already got a full EP! Calm down, witches! Dina's still reeling from a recent breakup, but her friends Kate and Simon know how to cheer her up. Make jokes about their classmate who just got stabbed to death.
The dude was wearing a Halloween skull mask. How is that not fun?
Because someone died. I know lots of people love Kate and Simon, and I know Simon's pretty much just Stu Macher from Scream, but it's hard for me to root for callous douchebags and stuck-up drug pushers.
Off to claim my place among the stars, bitch.
Maybe it's a school-wide case of assholery though, since they've got people like this dude who's doing another reference to Scream. But in Woodsboro, the punks just ran around dressed up like Ghostface. This Shadyside goof's dragging around an effigy of Maya Hawke's dead body.
Yeah!
No! Many people in Shadyside blame the shopping mall murders on a witch's curse. Sarah Fear, who cut off her hand while making a deal with the devil. Josh even maintains a whole conspiracy wall linking all of Shadyside's tragedies to the one-handed witch. Then again, witches are Shadyside High's mascot, so I mean, they're kind of inviting it. A Cypress Hill song bleeds into Creep by Radiohead as the soundtrack continues its hit clip's approach to the 90s. A bus of Shadyside football and band students drive through their dying town and into Sunnyvale, which looks a lot more like the right side of the tracks. I like the small detail of Sunnyvale jerseys having their names while Shadyside's don't. Good way to show the schools having very different budgets. Dina's here to get closure with her ex Sam, who recently moved to Sunnyvale and is already dating again. In what's played as a tiny twist, Sam ends up being the gal Dina was looking at. This is a lesbian love story, which is great. You don't often get that as the main romance in a movie, and I always like to see things that are new. Janiak and her writing partner Phil Graziadei, who is gay, wanted characters who weren't traditionally the leads in slashers.
How do we make it more representative of what the world was actually like back then? Just wasn't kind of able to be represented in film.
This is reflected in the differing demographics between Shadyside and Sunnyvale, though I think the movie wisely doesn't make that a focal point. It's more of a case of casual representation, letting its story and characters stand on their own. The broader message is kept mostly to subtext, like with the Curse of Shadyside, which represents generational trauma and how history can hold people back. At the same time, Fear Street doesn't shy away from reality and shows how difficult it was to be queer in the 90s. That's why Dina's mad that Sam, played by Olivia Scott Welch, moved away and is dating a guy now. This Sunnyvale jock, Peter the butt cheek needer. Dina feels abandoned and says Sam is lying about who she is, while Sam says Dina's too negative and nihilistic. Dina thinks Shadysiders will always fail, as opposed to Sunnyvalers like the mayor Matthew Good. The mayor's brother is Sheriff Nick Good, the sharpshooting skull slayer from the shopping mall. By the way, I know Sheriff Good says on TV there were 7 victims in the mall massacre, but the ones I didn't see ain't going on the count. During a memorial, Peter's a dick about his neighbor's plight, causing a big ol' fight to break out that sends the Shadysiders bussing back home. They're still riled up about it, as are the Sunnyvalers, which is why Peter's sneaking up with Sam and his bros to start some shit. Inexplicably, the bus driver keeps on driving like nothing is wrong, even when the Sunnyvalers toss glass bottles at him. And even when Dina opens the freaking back door? Are you kidding? Yo, driver, do you see what's going on here? Stop the freaking bus! Stop the bus! Yeah, what she said! Sam's hurt in the crash and crawls out of the car with her nose bleeding. When her blood touches the ground, she sees a trippy flash of images, until Dina breaks her out of it and apologizes for the whole, throwing a cooler at their windshield thing. Sam spits up blood and is carted away like a Friday the 13th final girl, and when the other kids are questioned, they all stonewall Sheriff Good, leaving the matter as one between them.
You were all fucking dead.
When Skullmask shows up outside her home the next night, Dina assumes it's Peter acting on his promised revenge. She calls Kate, who's babysitting kids at a house so close they can see each other, very much like Laurie Strode and her friend Annie in the original Halloween. Only Annie didn't have Lindsay Wallace sorting drugs for her to sell.
Do not eat these. These will make your little heart stop, and you'll choke to death on your own vomit, and everyone will be so super sad.
Simon's there with Kate for some reason. I don't think they're dating or anything. And they find Skullmask in the living room, hunched over laundry. After he disappears in a weirdly abrupt way, they note that he was sniffing on Simon's bloody shirt. They tell Dina, and thinking that it's Peter, they decide to go see Sam at the hospital. They get into her room with the help of one of Kate's customers, a nurse named Betty. Bam lam. As Betty takes Dina to Sam, Josh gets Kate to notice him by hacking the vending machine. Hell yeah, man. Ladies be loving them crunch bars. Ladies don't be loving when they get driven off the road though, so Sam's still mad at Dina. They have a back and forth yell fest that is painful and personal.
So don't blame me when you wake up in 10 years just like your dad, old and drunk and going nowhere.
Whew, can we break this tension, please? Oh, a kill? Perfect. Thanks, Peter. That was a big help, man. Skullmask is here, and he chases after Dina and Sam, pursuing them so single-mindedly he runs right past their friends. Know who Skullmask didn't run right past, though? The receptionist Stephanie, who they find with her throat slit, nor Nurse Betty, who Skullmask walks up to and stabs in the neck. Ah, damn. Someone get Betty a doctor, or a mop for all that blood at least. Skullmask chases the girls again until Dina throws him down and learns his identity. It's Ryan Torres, the mall killer, complete with the bullet in his brain. The Skullmask was designed by Fear Street's makeup artist Christopher Nelson, who we've actually seen on the kill count before as a cop in Halloween 2018, where he also did the makeup effects, including his own death scene. For Skullmask, Nelson wanted something simple you could buy in a store, just like Mikey My Mai's in Halloween. Dina's friends have a stolen ambulance waiting for them, so they get out of there and head towards the police station. There, Sheriff Good has mall janitor Martin locked up, with the charge of spray painting the mall where he works, cleaning the place up. Wait, that don't make sense.
Sheriff Good? More like Sheriff motherfucking Evil.
Dina tells Sheriff Good that Ryan Torres was just chasing them, but he doesn't believe her, cause, bullet in the brain.
Would you say he was more, Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living?
Wait.
Dead.
Well, he wasn't blue, so night. He leaves to do cop stuff, and in his absence, Dina subtly steals a gun from police officer Kopinski. Come on, Kopinski, that's like the 4th time this week. During this, Simon comes across a sexy singing chick. She ends up being a scary sexy singing chick who attacks Simon and starts freaking slashing him right in the middle of the road. That is, until she's shot a whole bunch by Dina with that cop's gun. Risky shots there, Dina, especially with the lack of payoff, because this little lady didn't even let that interrupt her or did he? The kids regroup at Dina's house. Simon mentions the singing girl's straight razor, and Josh realizes who it was.
This is Ruby Lane.
He says Ruby Lane slit her friend's throat with a straight razor in 1965. Ruby was just one of Shadyside's many headlines of death. In 1978, a baghead Jason-looking killer murdered kids at a summer camp called Nightwing. In 1950, a milkman named Harry Rooker did a couple of murders, including one seen here. Josh's history lesson goes on to give us 2 more flashback kills for the count. Someone beaten with a bat by Billy Barker in 22, and a girl being drowned by a grifter in 1904. All of these killers were seemingly normal people until suddenly snapping and slaying. The first was way back in 1666, when Pastor Cyrus Miller killed kids and cut out their eyeballs. Josh believes all these killers were bewitched by Sarah Fear, who was executed in 1666, the same year the kills began.
By cutting off her cursed hand, she kept her grip upon our land.
Kate points out the witch's curse doesn't explain why dead killers are coming back to chase them. Sam says that aspect might be tied to those mental flashes she had when she bled on the ground after the car crash.
I saw the witch.
They head back to the spot where it happened, and beneath some red moss, discover bones and chains. Wait, what? Those were right there on the ground this whole time? You're telling me these are Sarah Fear's shackles and skeleton, and shit's just been lying on the side of the road for 300 years? They try reburying the bones to put Sarah Fear's spirit to rest, but it doesn't work, especially not with Sam bleeding all over the bones again, which causes another round of hallucinations and whispers. Baghead Jason starts busting ass towards them, making a beeline for Sam and nearly taking her head off. Dina saves her though, and everyone's able to escape the Camp Nightwing killer, for now. They realize the killers are only going after Sam. That's why Nightwing ignored Josh a minute ago. The only reason the killers went after Dina and Simon is because they had Sam's blood on their clothes.
It's Jaws, dude. A shark smelling blood.
Wait, then why did Skullmask kill the receptionist and Nurse Betty? Come on, movie, make the rules clear. You're stressing out Sheriff Good. The kids go to the high school to enact a plan, but first they've got to get completely clean of Sam's blood. This leads to a triple, or 2.5, I guess, love scene while the Cowboy Junkies' cover of Sweet Jane plays on the soundtrack. With Dina and Sam, I get it. High school exes always be getting back together. But Josh and Kate is more off-putting to me, even though they've shared some nice moments throughout the film. It's just that Josh was introduced in a very annoying little brother kind of way. And as an annoying little brother myself, it's weird to me that he's getting with his sister's friend. I guess we can assume they're more like peers, since actor Benjamin Flores Jr. is only a year younger than Julia Raywald. In any case, I hate the part where Simon masturbates in the mirror. I'm sorry, but no human would do that in this situation. It's literally only for them to have a single joke.
Did you all go to Pound Town? Me too.
Josh narrates their plan over Firestarter, one of the sickest fucking songs ever made. Rest in peace, Keith Flint. Basically, they're gonna use Sam's blood to lead all the killers to a bathroom full of bottles, which, you know what? Kinda look like oxygen tanks to me.
Smile, you son of a bitch.
Simon thinks so too. Their plan starts off strong, with the extensive blood trail network attracting Shadyside's shadiest killers: Skullmask, Ruby Lane, and the Nightwing Killer. Gotta love that guy's pep. Also gotta love that Ruby Lane is played by Jordan Denatally, who starred in season 2 of Crypt TV's The Birch. The killers follow the blood, ignoring the others, because they just want themselves a chunk of that Sam. But sorry, Nightwing fuck, we're all out of Sam here. Might I interest you in a mannequin and some fire? Burn, motherfuckers! Unfortunately, not even fire can keep these killers from trying to kill, and as they reconstitute themselves, Kate comes to a conclusion.
They're coming for her. We put Sam in the hall, we end this now.
Though Dina's not a fan of the plan, Sam starts to come around, until Josh realizes there might be a way for all of them to survive. After all, someone survived the Nightwing massacre in 78.
There was one Shadyside survivor, C. Berman.
C. Berman survived Camp Nightwing and its axe enthusiast killer, and she also said she saw the witch, just like Sam did.
I saw the witch.
Funny thing is though, that C. Berman also died, then was brought back to life with CPR.
She survived by dying.
Huh, kinda like how I make a living from killing. This plan to tempt kill Sam takes them to the grocery store where Simon works, like the Bruce Campbell character Ash that Simon surely compares himself to. Kate makes an itinerary of drugs for Sam to OD on, as Simon does his best Matthew Lillard explaining the plan.
Pile 2 is gonna bring your core temp way down. You may feel slightly sick.
Yeah, you might start feeling a little Woozy there. After Sam ODs, they'll revive her with adrenaline, and to distract any killers who may show up, they'll be running around smeared with Sam's blood. Nothing could go wrong. Dina promises to bring Sam back to life, and she starts her parade of pills. Hey, easy with the tongue there. Can't lose any of those pills, you need them all. The drugs begin working as intended, although Dina has to help Sam after a certain point. Oh, Sam, I just said you needed them all. Gross. Skullmask shows up and is eager to kill Sam, and though Kate's able to jump in and fend him off, the pill plan gets ruined all the same. Damn it. Now Dina's gonna need another way to kill her girlfriend. Perfect! A lobster! Oh, no, wait, not the lobster. Dina's plan is to drown Sam in that fish tank. Lobster pee. Skullmask then attacks Kate in a fight with a few good beats. I like the bit with the cake smash. I didn't know these two got married. The fun and games end with a gut stab, and Kate is given a death that's unexpected and unforgettable, as Skullmask shoves her head first through an industrial bread slicer? Holy shit, patrons, this death is sweeter than that frosting. This kill is an all-timer, and possibly a reference to an even gorier one from 1989's Intruder. The makeup team tested a prosthetic head with an actual bread slicer, then shot footage of it alongside clean footage of Kate's actor Julia Raywald, who seems like she loved watching her death scene. VFX supervisor Paul Graff then combined the shots with great-looking blood effects and made sure to keep Kate's face recognizable as it came through the slicer, you know, to make it horrific. Director Lee Janiak insisted on Fear Street being bloody because she wanted young teenagers to feel like they shouldn't be watching it, the same way she felt watching Scream. She also wanted the characters to sound like real teenagers, thus the constant stream of F-bombs.
I remember getting a call from the studio after when they watched the dailies being like, there are a lot of F-bombs in that scene. Like, maybe we need to try to do some alts that don't have that.
Simon and Josh are being chased around by Shadyside monsters, and after they're both stunned by the sight of Kate's body, Simon is quickly killed with an axe swipe to the head. Holy crap, that was sudden. And bloody. Good God. Things are just about to get real bad for Josh and the ladies when Dina successfully drowns Sam, which I've gotta count as a kill. Sam's confirmed death is the only reason these killers all disappear. Dina grabs the adrenaline to bring Sam back, even though, wasn't that part of the OD plan? I don't think a litany of EpiPens is proper lifeguarding technique. Dina switches to CPR, which works in that wonderful magical movie way, with no broken ribs or ill effects or nothing. Sam's back, baby, and everything's gonna be okay. They make up a story for Sheriff Good, whose skepticism is expressed through lines that are too on the nose.
You look like a ghost, like you just came back from the dead.
Without any other info, Good blames everything on Kate and Simon, who he will label as a couple of Shadyside junkies.
Fits the narrative, right? Nice and neat.
Sam's disapproving mother picks her up, angry about her daughter's sinful sapphic ways. But how can Sam not love Dina, moms? Dina makes her mixtapes that start with Pixie songs. I mean, might as well just make it all of Doolittle, D. It's a perfect album. Dina's phone rings and she finds C. Berman on the other end. Earlier, they had called her after finding her number in something called the White Pages. C. Berman tells Dina that things aren't as over as she thinks, which is why Sam is hearing voices say her name, just like Ryan Torres did. C. Berman says the witch Seraphir will always find another way to kill, just like she has with all the past killers, whose names are carved into stone somewhere. And don't look now, but Sam's name just joined that exclusive list. Dina turns around to find that Sam is sticking her in the gut with a shiv. But don't let that dramatic drop fool you. Dina ain't dead. She's in good enough condition to have a linoleum wrestle round with Sam. Dina eventually wins and ties Sam up with something called a phone cord. And the movie ends with her promising to get her girlfriend back. To be continued, motherfuckers! How many people about to be looking at the shady side of a coffin lid? Let's find out and get to the numbers. 15 people died in Fear Street Part 1, with the unusual gender breakdown of 10 women and 5 men. Talk about casual representation. I like it. With a runtime of 107 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 7.13 minutes. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill, very obviously, to Kate. I mean, her head was sliced into bread-sized pieces. And not like Wonder Bread, that shit was Texas toast. Fucking gross. Dull machete for lamest kill will go to the receptionist Stephanie. Still not sure why she was killed, considering the rules. Hey, and fuck it, for Fear Street, let's give out a new award. The Shiny Shady Cider, sure, which will go to my favorite monster of the film. The first winner will be Billy Barker, the creepy little bastard. I know Skull Mask had all the cool kills, and Ruby Lane had that earworm of a song, but Billy just gives me the heebie-jeebies, and that baseball bat bashing is nasty. Shout out to stunt performer Emily Brobst, who, according to IMDb, was also in Cooties. And that's it. Fear Street Part 1, 1994, came out in July 2021. Its sequel, Part 2, 1978, was released 1 week later on Netflix. The kill count for that movie is also 1 week away. And until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been the Kill Count.
On the next Kill Count.
Tired of the same old Friday the 13th?
Yep.
Too bad, because it's time for a third scoop of Crystal Lake kills.
Sorry.
Friday the 13th Part 3 is an exercise in repetition.
Sex, sex, sex. You guys are getting boring.
A test of how willing people are to watch the same thing over and over again.
Doesn't look like anything's changed, though.
But since he came back, sure, we'll spice up the deal.
They fly eggs.
Here, have a hockey mask.
That's better.
That's what you've all been waiting for, isn't it?
Yes?
Want even more seasoning? How about a whole bunch of 3D?
Hey, you better watch out with that thing.
Seriously, I can't even count how many 3D shots are in this movie. Everything's just coming at you. Steaks, yo-yos, hoo-has, you name it.
Sounds disgusting. Let's go.
This week, watch another round of kills with some movie around them in Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D. And on Friday, August 27th, tune in for the Kill Count Recount, only on Dead Meat.
There are better things to do with your life.
Like what?
Friday the 13th, Part 3 can currently be watched on the pictured streaming platforms. Dead Meat always recommends you watch the movie for yourself before its kill count. It's the only way to have your own properly informed opinion. Kill counts are never meant to replace the experience of watching a film.
Thanks a lot for watching this Fear Street Kill Count. I want to thank some patrons like Gerard Wider, Jalen Brown, Matt Oliver Eaton, Franz Pants 16, Marnie MacLeod, Jen Arndt, and Carter Cox. Really excited to be covering these movies. I think they were a good thing for the horror genre. I know a lot of you love these movies, so I hope I cover them well. Thanks everyone. Be good people.